Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very, 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 very special episode on my channel today. I have, as you see, the lovely Ted and Veronica of Ted and Vero TV. I am so excited to be talking to these two today. They are really, I think, just such like motivational and inspirational people as individuals, but also as a couple. So Ted, Veronica, thank you so much for joining me today and welcome.
Thank
you, Amanda. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, really appreciate you setting this up. Means a lot to us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming, I feel, but
yeah,
thank you for your patience and for dealing with all the things behind the scenes to make this happen. So really appreciative and really grateful. So if we're ready, I'm just going to go ahead and jump right in and start off with the question that everyone always wants to know, I'm sure, which is, how did you two meet?
That is a great question. You want to begin, honey?
Yeah, well, it's probably the most popular question that's out there, at least for us. We had a recommendation from a subscriber, JNP Swirl, who's another interracial couple on YouTube. And they had said, you really need to do a how you met video.
Yeah.
And to date, it's by far the video that has the most views. I think there's 17,000 coming up on 18,000 views on it, which is well above our average.
Yeah.
So this is what everybody wants to know.
Yeah.
So this is the perfect question to start off with. But on that note, should I start or do you want to start?
No, you can start.
Well, my journey is long and sordid, and if I went through all the details, we'd be here for probably a couple of weeks, but we're going to cram this into 45 minutes or so. So first of all, I would say that the most important thing that I learned on my journey before meeting my wife is that you need to be cultivating your most authentic self, the strongest self that you have within you. And that can be a confusing process because if I could go back and tell my younger self this, my younger self would probably say, I already know who I am. So I don't know how much good that advice does people, because when you're there, you have to already have a certain level of self-awareness to be able to realize that you're in need of that. Nevertheless, that is what had to happen. And it was a growth process and a huge journey. But ultimately, that path did lead me exactly to where I always wanted to be. And this was to be married to this beautiful woman here sitting next to me. So yeah, as a very young man, I mean, I've always been attracted to Black women. Even going back all the way to like in high school, like all my buddies had the hots for like Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera, you know, and I had a crush on Brandy. It's just like the way it's always been. So, but I did date white women for a good portion of my life. And I was actually even engaged at one point. Yeah. And, but ultimately it turned out that none of those relationships were right for me, obviously. And so I went through a period after a lot of turmoil, a lot of issues coming to a head in my life where everything just kind of collapsed. Everything that I had built up. To try to summarize that is a big ordeal, but suffice to say, I had a pretty dark period where I went through, where I didn't know who I was anymore. I had finally gotten out of a relationship that was extremely unhealthy and that I needed to have gotten out of for a long time, but it actually was strung out over the course of an entire decade. So when this ended, it was actually kind of like a divorce, I would guess, but obviously we weren't married. But when you pour yourself into someone for 10 years, when that ends, unless you're heartless or you just didn't care to begin with, that's going to be a huge deal. And that's actually the reason why I delayed in ending the relationship, even though I knew a long time before I did that it needed to be ended. So I ended that relationship and kind of got wiped out. Plus, I was going through a lot of identity issues with, I've always wanted to be a novelist. I've always wanted to be a writer. But when I had an encounter with God, I was convicted about what I was writing. I've been a huge fan of Stephen King and the horror genre and all that stuff. And there's still a part of me that is attracted to those kinds of stories, dark stories. I feel like it's more honest and more raw when you plumb that level of intensity. So I really think there's something valuable even still to be had there. But the way in which I was approaching stories needed to kind of be overhauled and redone because I no longer felt comfortable with a lot of the language and explicit stuff that goes into that. It just didn't mesh any longer with my new identity in Christ. And so all of these things came to a head, and I just had this moment where I was lost. And so that was a period that I had to get through. And with God's help and with patience, I did come out of it. And actually, it was writing again, because I hadn't written for probably 7 or 8 years, that brought me out. I wrote another novel, and it was one of the most exhilarating experiences of my life. I wrote in like a white heat almost, with music blasting as I was writing. And I was single. I had gotten out of that relationship. My roommate of 15 years, a buddy of mine, had moved out, and I had this place all by myself, and I was just going for it. So I wrote this novel, and after that, it was like I was cleansed in a way. So at that point, I was ready. So long story short, I had to go through that crisis to be able to figure out who I was and embrace who I was, because there was a lot of self-rejection too. I was made to feel ashamed for whatever reason of a lot of things that I wanted in my life. And I got to that place where I was accepting of it and I embraced it. And that's a huge piece of advice that I would give to the gentleman out there is, first order of business, find out who your authentic self is, cultivate that, embrace yourself, and don't be ashamed. Don't be embarrassed.
Yeah.
So I got on to an interracial dating website because, as I said before, I was always attracted to Black women and their personalities. There's just so much light and energy and power. I'll even use that word. There's just something so attractive about Black women. And so I thought, I'm going to take what I want. This is my hour. And so I got on Interracial Dating Central and put up my profile, was completely transparent and honest in my profile about my faith, who I was looking for. I said I was looking for a godly woman. I said that I was looking for my rib, as Eve was created out of Adam's rib. And I knew that any woman that read my profile and understood that and that resonated with that would be a very likely candidate. So that's the other thing. Like, don't hold back. You might think, oh, well, I don't want to put the religion in there because then that's going to scare some of them off. Well, you want to scare those ones off because that's not who you want. So just be totally honest with who you are looking for. And lo and behold, it was not very long before actually Veronica was the one that messaged me. I mean, I would have messaged her if I'd found her, but she found me first. So she said hello, and she had a little coffee cup emoji sitting there like, let's meet up for coffee. But I noticed that she actually lived in Maryland. And I live in Oregon, which is about 2,500 some odd miles apart. East Coast, West Coast. And so I immediately was like, no. I mean, when I saw her picture, I was just blown away because she was absolutely gorgeous, looked like an angel. And then I was thinking to myself, is this person even real? Because, when you get online, you've got a lot of fake profiles.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm like, is who actually is this? Because that can't actually be who this is. But it was who she said it was. And but I didn't answer her message for about 4 or 5 days. And one day I'm sitting there talking to my sister, and my sister didn't know about this message. And I said, Ashley, if I want to just message somebody on an online dating website, it's not like I need to get serious right off the bat, right? It can just be cool and casual and just, hey, how's it going? And no commitment, right? And she's like, yeah, you should just totally relax and just go for it. I was like, yes, because I really wanted to message her. So I rushed home, sent her a little coffee cup emoji back and said, I'm ready to meet up for coffee. And she responded very quickly.
Yeah.
And shortly after that, we exchanged messages and we went from there. But I mean, I'm going to let you dive in because.
Yeah. So, I mean, you've said a lot more. And because of time, I'm not going to get into the process of my whole journey. I think we've shared that on our channel, Ted Vero TV. So your viewers can also go there and check out my journey and the whole process of it all. But just on the whole subject on how we met, I think that God planned the whole thing. I know we'll talk about faith eventually, but God orchestrated the whole thing. He organized the whole thing because I had never been on any dating website before. I was working and it happened to be slow that day and there was no activity happening. And I had also gotten out of a relationship that was, I was not proposed to or anything, but that there were talks of it ending into marriage. And the person I was with, I was truly invested in the person and I was invested in his family and my heart was there. And so when the relationship ended, I was so heartbroken. I felt lost. And I went on just completely focusing on God, hoping that one day him and I would have gotten back together because I really wanted that relationship to work. But, I just completely surrendered my life to Christ. And I said, you know what? I can no longer push through with myself. I need you, God, to take over. So my work is slow. Nothing is happening. And I go on Facebook. And I'm not quite sure if you've realized this. Sometimes it's like Facebook suggests things to you. It's like conversations that you've had. Facebook suggests, it's like, are they listening to us? That's how it felt like. I had the conversation with my friend about interracial dating, and that was not even something for me. It was in relation to something completely different. So when I was working, I went on Facebook, the interracial dating website popped up, and I was like, interesting. So I opened the app and I said, let me sign up for it. I signed up for it, not thinking much about it. I went through and I saw my profile. At that time, I focused completely on Christ. So my profile was based on my faith, nothing else. I didn't talk about what I like to do for fun. I think I mentioned one thing here and there, but the whole focus was centered around Christ. And so when I was scrolling through it, I saw a picture of my husband now, my incredible husband, Ted, with his niece. And that time, I didn't even know it was his niece, but it was like a voice whispered to me and told me that is not his child. And it's not as though I wouldn't be with someone that has a child. But if I felt like he was a family member. And so I read his profile and I said, whoa, that is a man of God. Like, don't hold back, send a message. So then I sent the coffee cup, and I was like, okay, maybe I won't even hear back. So I just kept scrolling through. Someone else had reached out to me. A couple of people actually had reached out and wanted to meet up for coffee. So I actually met up with, I think, one person from that website, and we went out for coffee whose profile had also mentioned God, but it was different than Ted's description of himself and his faith and everything. That person's profile was more of himself, and God was more like a passerby thing. But at that moment, I didn't really think about it. But that was supposed to happen for me to get like an awakening. So I went for coffee with this person. We talked, and the conversation was great. It was a lot more focused on himself, on how much money he had and the plans he had. I was this is not bad. And I mean, it wasn't too bad. So I came home and I was like, I just came out of a relationship, but is that something that I really want? And I had not heard back from Ted yet. So I was like, okay, maybe it was meant for me to just, try, go out for coffee here and there and do stuff, but, nothing serious. Then when he finally reached out, I responded right away because I was like, okay, I prayed about it. I said, God, I felt something from this guy. It was some type of energy and it was right. And if it's your will, then let him reach out. And I just like left it like that. So when he responded, I don't know if it was a Sunday or something. I think I was like going to church. And I went to an African church when I lived in Maryland, and
Yeah.
our church lasted 8 hours. Okay.
Yeah.
So
That's not an exaggeration.
yeah, our services lasted like 8 hours, sometimes 7 hours. So during the church service, you have to take a break. I think I had taken a break. I stepped out and I was like, oh, let me respond to the message. The message came and I responded right away. And then we went from there, and then he said he lived in Oregon. And I was like, Oregon, that place is far. And when he said he lived in Oregon, I was a little bit like taken off. I was like, nah, that is not the one for me. Like, I have a life here.
Yeah.
I have so many friends here. I've made connections. I have a job that I love. I have people. Like, I've built a life. I can't move. Like, I'm not quite sure why my mind was already thinking about moving. Even though this person had just sent a coffee cup and the conversation began, and we started talking from there. Most of our conversation was nothing about physical appearance, was mainly about God. I told him my one of my favorite Bibles that I had been looking for was the Geneva Bible. When the first time then we made arrangements. Ted flew in to come see me in Maryland, and I went with, first of all, okay, let me insert this in here. My friend Catherine, because I had said that I was not interested when he had said he lived in Oregon. I was like, forget it. I had already moved on in my mind. I was like, okay, that is not for me. There's something else out there for me. And one day I was at work. It's as like what his sister did for him. And my friend Catherine, who has become like a sister to me, I had mentioned it to her, and she said, Veronica, I know you, but what else are you looking for? Like, he is a man of God. Like, tell me exactly what you are looking for, and we'll go out and find it. But based on all the description and every detail you have given me about this guy, he is someone after God's own heart. Unless you don't really want someone who is a believer, then I will say, okay, let's step back. But if you want someone who believes in our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ and who actually walks in his ways, then this is the one for you. And I say, you know what, Catherine, I've been there, done that. This is what I want. I don't want anything else. It's not about physical appearance anymore. It's not about how I feel. It's about God's will for me and the long run and what the future will hold. Because what I thought was the real deal was not, and eventually it ended up being heartbroken. So we had that conversation, and then, long story short, made arrangements. Ted flew in, and I met him at the airport. It was
Yeah.
beautiful. And the very first gift he gave me was the gift of the Geneva Bible. And I remember my heart was so at peace when I received that gift, and I went to church and I was holding the Bible in my hand. I had had a conversation with my pastor, my then pastor, about it. And I was expecting him to say that, I don't feel right with this guy. I showed him a picture, but I had shown other guys to him, and, he had shut it down. He was like, oh no, that person is not really. And it was not really right. But when I showed Ted's picture to him, I was like, that's a good guy. And so I took the Bible to church, and I had not told my pastor about anything about the gift and everything. And I was holding the Bible and I was reading it, and he had seen the cover, and he was like, that is a great Bible. Where did you get that? And I was like, oh, someone special gave it to me. And he was like, well, so after church, I was like, yeah, my friend, my special friend gave it to me because I was keeping the relationship very private. But I appreciated that Bible so much. And the gift and the heart, and after that he got me some shirt with scriptures on it. So the whole identity and the whole foundation of our relationship was based on our faith in our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. If it wasn't because Ted was a believer, I would not be sitting here with him right now.
Mm-hmm.
That, and there is nothing wrong with anyone else's choice, but it's because the previous choices I had made had not worked for me. And I want to insert this here: a true believer, not just anyone who claims, and when I say believer, Christian, not just anyone who claims to be a Christian, but someone who is actually a Christian. So that is the whole nutshell on how we met and how we find ourselves here today, Amanda.
Oh
So,
my gosh. There's so many gems. I just feel we could just talk
yeah.
story. I mean, just the standout to me is that you both had to go through a period of letting go,
Yes.
whether by choice or not, whether
Yes.
voluntary or not. You both had to have people leave. You had to have people exit stage left.
Yes.
And that is just so beautiful and powerful to me, because in those moments, that's difficult. As you were saying, Ted, we can stick around for things that we know don't serve us because they've been there. We know them. We're familiar with them. It might not be the most comforting, rewarding relationship, but it is familiar.
It's familiar. Yeah.
And so I think that it's just, and it's so difficult in those moments to remember that there is light on the other side. You can feel so defeated and so like, oh my gosh, especially in romantic relationships, it can feel like I just had this 10-year long experience where I just invested so much of myself into this person, into their family. I mean, that's a totally different dynamic once family is also involved. So it can feel like, can I ever have this again? I've already had it now. Is it possible for me to do this again?
And you're 10 years older.
Yes.
Like for me, that was a big thing. I was like, I'm 10 years older. And now what are the odds that I'm really going to be able to find what I'm looking for and enjoy the relationship that I've always wanted?
Yes.
But
absolutely,
we have more time than we think we do. It's all these self-defeating thoughts when you're in that place.
And that's the thought of the enemy. You have to be able to break free from what holds you back. And you have to come to a place where if this ends, I will be okay.
Yeah.
Until you come to that place, you will hold on even to abuse. And that is why so many people are in bondage, because they feel like, whoa, if I walk away. But trusting that you will be okay, man, can be so relieving. Trust that once you trust that, listen, I'm enough. I will be okay. I will overcome this. This does not define me, because we go into a relationship and it defines who we are. I'm writing a blog, and the other day I wrote something in my notes, and I said, it just came to me that, young ladies, marriage is not the final destination. Relationship is not the final destination. It just came to my spirit, and it was so strong, and I was like, whoa, Lord. And I prayed and I said, may I never let go of the dreams and the visions I had, because once that happens, then God forbid, my husband is human being. We are all humans. We make mistake. If any mistakes happen, I can be so heartbroken that I'll lose control of myself, and I'll feel like life itself is not enough living anymore. But when you are at a place where you are self-aware and you are enough within yourself, then if anything happens, you know that, I'll be okay. I'm okay. And so I hope that someone that can touch someone out there, and to realize that if they're in something that is toxic, they can move past it.
Oh, that's so beautiful and so true. And it's so true that, especially when something is extended, like a 5-year relationship, a 10-year, I mean, for different people, it can have a different impact no matter how much time. But it's also not that you become just familiar and it's easy, but your brain, your heart, I mean, you start to internalize and believe that this is normal. This is okay. This is how things should be. If I go somewhere else with someone else, it's going to be the same thing. You also just become, it imprints on you, is how I think of it. It's like an and you really have to break free first, just from that pathology, from that way of thinking. I mean, that's the first step. And I think that's just so important too to emphasize, because a lot of times people think, well, the first step is to leave that person. And sure, if it's a situation of abuse, then absolutely separation is necessary. But if you don't break free from that mindset, from that pathology, you will walk back in to where you walked out of. So, 100%. That's so beautiful. Oh my goodness. And just a side note, I see this in your videos as well, and I just love seeing it now talking. I love how you two look to one another when talking. It's such I think eye contact, even when it's not being made, just the knowledge that that person is hearing you is so beautiful.
Oh, thank you. We do feed off each other, which is great.
Yes,
thank you so much, Amanda.
Yeah, absolutely. Goodness. So I guess I feel like so much was covered in what you said, which was, I can't believe that you all just said that just off the top. What incredible people. I would have had to have written that out weeks ago, rehearsed it.
It's the journey.
Yeah. So I guess my next question would be well, it seems like it was pretty soon, but I'm just curious, Veronica, for you, did you have, at the point in which the question was popped, the proposal was given, at that point, did you know for sure? Did you still feel that peace? Or were there any of those limiting beliefs, those negative thoughts, those, do I deserve this? I think so many women, we feel that we actually don't, we think we do, and we say what we want, but when things are presented to us, we can talk ourselves out of it. We can self-sabotage. So I'm really curious, like, did you experience any of that, or did you just know and that was it?
I knew as soon as he proposed. First of all, Ted proposed to me. The location which he was going to propose, I happened to be so tired that day, and it makes sense now, because I was probably dealing with some health stuff. The sun was extremely scorching and it was so hot. So we had gone to the zoo, and his plan was to propose at a dinner, and he planned the whole thing in his mind. But after we left the zoo, I was so exhausted, Amanda. I said, after we were about to leave the zoo, I was like, okay, I need to go home. He was like, really, home? I think if he had insisted on it, I would have like caught a green light that he was going to propose. But he's so nice and so sweet. He was like, okay. And so at the zoo, he proposed to me under a nice like gazebo, and it was the whole thing was beautiful. And we have a video on this on our channel, our proposal story, for your viewers to check it out as well. But when he proposed, right there and there, a friend had called me, and that is one thing that I'm actually learning to break free from. So I've been someone that I've always availed myself to people. Whether it was to the detriment of myself, I have done that. And it became stronger when I first gave my life to the Lord. I needed to understand the difference between, serving people and also taking care of myself, And so even at that moment when he had proposed to me, I had someone who had called me and was dealing with something very urgent and it was very serious. And so I happened to be on the phone with the person because the person was trying to reach me all day and she couldn't. And so when when we were done walking around, seeing all the cute animals, I was like, okay, this is good. Let me call her now and just try and hear what she has to say. And so on the phone with her, oh no, as soon as like he got on his knees, was it after? I'm trying to get a time frame.
What, when you made the call?
Yeah.
It was after I proposed. I proposed and she accepted.
Yeah.
And there was a photographer from the National Geographic just happened to be there. And unbeknownst to me, I had my back turned.
Yeah.
And he was taking photos, candid photos of the proposal. So she says yes. I go back down the trail after this photographer because she said that he had pictures and I wanted them. So I went down this trail and left her.
Yeah.
And got these photos and then started making my phone calls to family, you know, telling them all that she said yes. But she got this heavy phone call from a friend who was in need and she wasn't able to celebrate.
I couldn't celebrate that moment, you know. But so that moment was taken away from me. But I needed to be there for this person. So that after that was done, you know, I felt a sense of shock, but at the same time, relief. It was like relief that had come in my life because I was at a place where, like I said earlier, I was serving others and nothing, I wouldn't say nothing good, but nothing uplifting had happened to me yet.
You were pouring out and you weren't getting anything in.
I was pouring out and I wasn't getting anything in. Exactly. Thank you, honey. So that is what was happening. And so when Ted proposed, I felt like, whoa, I just got something. I felt like I had my person. And so, you know, and after I took the phone call and everything, I got home, I took my ring off my finger and I kept it in a box. And I said, I'm not going to wear this yet because I needed to make sure that those around me at that time would be receptive of it. And not because I had bad people around me, but there are seasons in life where you feel like you are standing alone. And that was that season. I felt like I was standing alone, yet God had brought him. But because I hadn't had him we were not together for long. So we didn't court for long. Until
not long at all.
Not long ago until he proposed. So the people around me, I felt like were the ones that could be there for me. But I think that everyone was going through their own thing. And I think I know why now. God needed me to be separated for me to cultivate this. Because if I still had them around me, it would have been a lot of distraction in my ears. Opinions like how they, and I don't know how people feel when it comes to, you know, dating someone of another race, because even after, you know, and we'll talk about this later on in the conversation, so maybe I'll reserve this. But so I took my ring off and I kept it and I prayed every day. I began to pray, fasting, and just seeking the face of God, because just because you've gotten the ring does not mean that the enemy has stopped his work, you know. So my husband, my fiance left Ted, he left and came back to Oregon. And I just did the work of just seeking God and then working on myself and making sure that I was surrounded by the right people. So nobody knew until, let's say, 3 weeks before the wedding. I was like, okay, I'm engaged, I'm getting married. You were a bridesmaid, you were a bridesmaid. Have I ever been there for you? Okay, you were a bridesmaid.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So that is how the whole thing happened. I ended up having like 15 bridesmaids. It was crazy. I was like, it was at the same time, but that was the whole process. Yeah.
And her pastor confirmed that intuition to kind of keep this a private thing.
Yeah.
Because, as she was saying, you have to be careful what voices you let into your space, especially when you're on that dividing line between your old life and your new life.
Yeah.
Those voices, if they're not the right voices, they can pull you back down, cause you to second guess, cause you to self-sabotage, cause you to fall back into that place where you feel like this is too good to be true and I really don't deserve this.
Yeah.
And it's not the hour to listen to voices that are not for your good.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. And so that is what, I did. I kept it, and I was like, whoa, I didn't know I could keep a secret this long, Um,
And of
you
that magnitude, I can't imagine having a secret like that. I mean, it's one thing to have a secret like, oh, I'm taking this trip out of town.
yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
going to this concert, but I may be getting married. That's
Yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of people were just like, what? You're getting married? Who is the guy? And everyone wanted to meet the guy.
Yeah.
I had people doing their own research, who he was. I said, sometimes one of my very favorite scriptures is Psalm 91, verse 1. And he says, he who dwells in the secret place of the Lord shall abide under the shadows of the Almighty. And that word, secret place, always resonated so much with me. And I'm like, the Lord has a secret place. I need to have a secret place. And Ted became that secret place, not in a way of hiding him, but in a way of protecting him and protecting what God has given me. I'm telling you, Amanda, so many people have destroyed their lives and what could have been great because they couldn't just close their mouth for just a little while.
Yeah.
Like if you wait a little while, you can see the amazing, amazing things that can take place in your life. And I think that we are so quick to share because we trust so easily. I mean, which can be a beautiful thing, but sometimes you just have to know the energy around you before you open that.
Well, it's true. And the pearl is formed in secret, in the dark, and in the depths of the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't happen while everybody is watching.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to get over this need for self-affirmation from the outside constantly. It needs to come from within, or it's not even a foundation to stand on. It's really all just superficial noise.
Yeah, absolutely. And with you saying that and the pearl being formed in that dark, closed, contained space, it's also what we were saying earlier with I hope you could follow this metaphor. It's going to sound probably silly, but just that when you both were going through those dark, low times, that's when the pearl for you was also like the pearl itself. That's what was being formed too. And yes, it's so. And I've always been pretty open about the struggles that I have with mental health and with anxiety and depression. And that is something that I always have to constantly remind myself of, is that, there is no light without darkness.
Yeah.
And the light's not as good either when there is no darkness. And so I just think that's so beautiful that you shared that. And also one thing that stuck out to me is the boundaries. I think that as a Christian, as really anyone of any faith who truly feels that faith, I think that there is such a desire that sometimes I think is almost misguided to just give, to give. And if you don't give everything that you have, then you are not properly walking in Christ or in whoever that a person follows, then you're not properly following it. And I just think that that's so incredible that you found that fine line, as you were saying, and that you were able to begin protecting yourself so that you can protect your union, but also that when you are protected, when your spirit, when your soul, when that's protected, that is when you can actually begin that walk and really live in that walk instead of just talking the talk of walking the walk.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
For your own peace of mind and for your own mental health.
Yeah.
It's so important. And I feel like people, we are to love people, but we are not to allow them to drain us.
Yes.
And a lot of times our pain do not come from animals. Our pain come from our fellow, human
Yeah.
beings.
Yeah.
And that is why the boundary is so important. You have to be able to know when to draw the line. For the
Yeah.
longest time, I didn't know that. You come home from work and you are so exhausted, and all you need is to just relax and not think about anybody. But then a call comes in and you give yourself. And at one point, I think I told my friends this, and I said, please, anytime, let's practice this. Anytime we call each other, let's ask each other, are you in the mental space to handle what I'm about to release on you?
Yeah.
Because if I'm not in the mental space to take on anymore, maybe I had a worse day, and then you call me right now, you're like, Veronica, this, that.
I can't take any more
I can't
tonnage.
take any more. Like there is, and it takes us to a dark place. And a lot of time the dark place we find ourselves in do not even come from ourselves. It comes from people around us. And so once I discovered that, I was like, whoa, the problem is not really coming from me. I realize it's coming from, there's a source. And so once I discovered that source and I I got a key to that source, I'm like, okay, I open it when I want, I close it when I want. So now no one has control over this because God has given us the free will, and that the power, we have so much power within ourselves that we don't even know. There's so much energy, we can sit there and we start vibrating, in the power that God has given us as human beings. It's incredible. So if I'm able to protect that and not carry everything that is on you on myself, then my life will be like, whoa.
Well, and when you're planning on flying somewhere, before you take off, the flight attendant will show you how to grab a hold of your oxygen mask in the case of an emergency. And they say, get your oxygen mask on first and
Before
then
you
help someone else. That's a good analogy for life. It's not selfish for you to take care of yourself first. You have to take care of yourself first to be able to help those around you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love that what you and your friend do, because that also, I think, allows for you to really be your best self to your friend. If someone is going through something and I think we've all been in that position where we're just like, oh gosh, you're really telling me this right now. Oh, couldn't this have waited until any other day? And it's so unfortunate because that's not how you feel towards your friend. It's not that you have any less love or care or concern. But again, it's if your tank is empty or half empty, then even what you will give, that percentage left to give to your friend, even that isn't the same. It's not as constructive and valuable as if you could give extra from your reserves instead of all of your reserves.
Precisely.
Same thing for relationships.
Absolutely. I think that's so true. So
and a lot of the times people that you're helping honestly aren't ready / don't want the help. They want to stew in the misery. It's like misery loves company, and you have to be able to discern that too. Because if you're just dumping yourself into a black hole, that's never going to be good for either of you, because that person needs to figure out how to start and have enough courage to start. And you need to know when to back off because you're simply wasting your energy.
Absolutely.
So all of that stuff, self-awareness is just such a big
thing.
Part of it, just being able to see around you and having that wideness come upon your perceptions.
Yes, absolutely. And it reminds me, I meant to mention this earlier. I love that when you were speaking about the proposal story and how you kept it a secret, and you were, oh my goodness, I hope I can remember it because I thought it was so profound. You were saying that I think you said this isn't the time to let the enemy in, or, oh my gosh, do you remember it?
The season. The season wasn't right for the people around me, and it's not because they were bad people, but it's just because that I think, if I'm remembering correctly, it's so good we are recording this, which is, because sometimes I feel Yeah, every time, I was sitting there before we began, I started praying. I'm like, Lord, speak through me. And that is the thing that happens every time we both do this. We open our mouth. It's like God takes over and he speaks through us. So even after we are done, you're like, okay, what did I say? Oh, I said that. Oh, wow, that's great
Rewind
advice.
the tape.
Rewind the tape. And sometimes I'll find myself doing that even in conversations with my friend. They'll be like, wow, Veronica, you're so deep. I'm like, am I?
What did I say?
What did I say? Like, when? Because after I go back to being silly, but I'm like, oh, really? I didn't know I was deep. What did I say that was deep? Tell me. So, yeah, but
Yeah.
I
But
just
that's a true
love
story.
what I thought was so beautiful about that is that I feel that it's actually in those pivotal, life-changing, and oftentimes the ones that feel good. I feel that is actually when the enemy is
Yeah.
most present.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily when we are at our lowest or when we're the most I guess when we would be the most conducive to this
To
enemy
expect
invasion.
him. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. It's when you are at kind of on your way to the top. I feel that's when you are actually the most vulnerable.
Be
And
on guard.
yeah, yeah. And it's just
Yeah.
so easy, I think, once you're getting up to backslide. I think it's
Yeah.
so much easier to backslide on your way up than when you're just in a neutral, and I just thought that was so
You'll
beautiful.
discover who your true friends are when you're going up.
Yes.
When you're going up, because the sad truth is a lot of people, for whatever reason, don't want to see you succeed. They are, again, as we talked about, being comfortable in relationships that aren't actually good for you. Your friends, family, whoever these people are, some of them are comfortable with you right where you are. And if you even talk about bettering yourself, it makes some of these people uncomfortable. And if you actually start breaking down these barriers and you literally are climbing a ladder and ascending somewhere, some of these
You
people
become a
will
bad
literally
person.
turn on you. They can actually turn on you and become your enemies, all because you are going somewhere and they want you to stay right where you are because that's what they're comfortable with. And that has everything to do with their own issues. It has nothing to do with where you're going. If your heart is telling you that's where you fly, then that's where you fly.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep. It's so, and it's one of those reasons why who you associate with and who you spend time with and give your energy to is just, it's so important to be mindful of that.
Yeah.
And it's interesting too that it really is those, I've always felt that it's those who are actually closest to you who will be the ones who fall first. And it's always either in adversity, they're the ones to fall first, or in light, in your ascension, they're the ones to fall first. And it's really, it's fascinating. I think, as you were just saying, Ted, that so much of who you are in that moment, they depend on. And it's a reflection. It's almost going back to that confirmation, that external validation that, okay, if this person is here and I'm here, then I'm okay. I'm doing okay. But if they try to go up and I'm not ready, or I don't think I can, or whatever belief you have, then you want to, it's crabs in a barrel, right? You want
Exactly.
to that. Yes, absolutely.
100%.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I want to move on then to just some, because we've covered so much. And oh my God, I feel like we need to do like a part 2, part 3.
Definitely
have us back whenever you want to.
Yes, this is so beautiful. I guess I want to ask now, just individually, I would love to hear your thoughts on tips, tricks, just general advice for people. I don't even want to just really limit it to black and white. Like, I really think that I think your love and your marriage and your partnership is greater than your physical bodies that you are in right now. But I just want to pose the question, what are some tips and tricks that you would recommend for people who are looking for the real deal, who are at a point where they don't want to entertain any more casual dating or just relationships to just have someone around? Because I think we've all been in a stage where it's better to just have someone around than to be on your own. So I would love, just one at a time, for you to share, Ted, what are some tips and tricks and advice you would offer men out there? And Veronica, what would you offer women out there?
Okay. Well, start, honey.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I briefly touched on it when I talked about how we met. And the first thing I would say, again, just to reiterate, would be to discover who your authentic self is and actually embrace that. We can get really messed up in our childhoods for all kinds of reasons. We're developing. There's all kinds of stuff happening when you're growing up. And depending on what influences you have, both good and bad, can actually color over who you really are. You can have a great influence that makes you think that you want to be something you weren't meant to be. Or you can have a bad influence that discourages you from being who you were meant to be. So either way, you have to somehow figure out how to slice through all of that and start on that journey. Get off the broad road that everybody's on. Everybody is on the broad road going the same direction. And my philosophy with almost regards to anything is that if everybody is going that way, I'm going this way. And really follow your heart. That's what my heart has always told me, is to swim upstream. Don't go with the crowd and follow your heart. It kind of sounds like, the theme to a Disney movie or something, but really be true to yourself and don't do anything for the sake of anybody else when it comes to what your future is going to be. Everybody wants to have a say in your future for some bizarre reason, especially your parents. It's almost like because you're their offspring, they possess you. You belong to them, and so does your future. But that isn't true. And a lot of the time, parents obviously mean well. They want the best for their children, but they have a tendency to hang on too tight. And I think we all do that in our lives for just in any kind of situation, whether it's friends, where you're at, your kids, your family, even what you want. And that's actually a secret key right there. Know who you are and then pursue it, but don't hang on to it with a death grip, because if you hang on to it too tight, it's the most bizarre, like opposite effect that happens. The tighter your grip is, the faster what you want is going to slip right through your fingers. You almost have to become what you want at rest inside the deepest part of your soul, so that you become a magnet that attracts what you're looking for automatically. It's not that you're demanding it and grabbing it and insisting. It's that you're resting in trust and faith. And then it's almost like you become the ocean and the rivers align to you and it all pours in.
That's
So
sweet advice, honey. That is
I
really
love
true.
that. I love that for both of you. It always comes back to trust. Ultimately, you have and surrender. Trust and surrender and believe in the process, even when we can't see it or understand it, to believe that there is something greater happening behind the
Absolutely.
that we
And
just
believe in action. Believe in action. Some people will believe sitting down, believe stationary. They think if I believe strong enough, if I have enough faith, my intended one is going to knock on my door tomorrow. She's never going to show up, dudes. You have to believe and go get her.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I have to get a T-shirt that says that. Believe in action. That is
Good
That's the
girl.
whole
That
word.
was
Yeah.
really great.
I love it. All right, and Veronica, I'd love to hear your.
He said so much. I'm just like trying to figure out like which one to add because it goes both for men and women as well, not just relationship, but even career wise. But one thing I would say is to love yourself, and to discover who you are. And I'm gonna talk a little bit of like say insert something here based on what Ted just said. Heal yourself from childhood trauma,
Yeah.
because for us women and even men as well, I don't think that if I know that you want to generalize this, but I want to focus on Black women a little bit. We don't, we tend to not, how do I say this? We tend to not believe in therapy, and we tend to not heal from our traumas. We hold on to it, and it's something that has always been said that we are strong. We can, but a lot of times we are holding that within ourselves, and so we are walking around with childhood traumas, how our fathers treated our mothers, or how vice versa, and we go into relationship with those things without actually being healed. And our children see that, and it's like a generational curse, and it keeps happening over and over again. So healing yourself is actually something that we've talked about in one of our videos where I'm speaking of self deliverance. Put your life before you and ask yourself, why do I do this? Why do I allow myself to be talked down like this?
Yeah.
Why do I allow myself to be treated like this? So examine your life in every aspect, even the way friends treat you. Do they belittle you? And do you accept their belittlement? So examine yourself so that when you enter into a relationship, you'll be whole.
Yeah.
You'll be whole. And deliverance is a process. So healing might not take place in just one night, but if as long as you are on that journey of healing, when things come along, you'll be able to identify that, okay, this is a stumbling block in my process, and then you knock it out of the way. This is a stumbling block in my process, and that is how you'll be able to free yourself. Until you do that, you go into a relationship or marry, or you can even get married today. It's not how long you've known someone that will tell you that, okay, a relationship or a marriage will work. You can know someone for 20 years, for 10 years, like our experiences has been, and it might not work. So just make sure that you know who you are. And when the person that you are interested in comes along, do not be blinded by outward appearance, because those things, you need to be physically attracted to the person. I'm not saying don't, but don't let that become the center of your mind.
Yeah.
And because that will cloud your judgment so fast.
Yeah.
And that has clouded my judgment in the past. I look at a guy, I'm like, whoa, look at how he stands, look at how he walks. And I'm like, oh, I'm in love. It wasn't love, it was lust. And so many of us are in lust, and we think that we are in love because we are so infatuated by how they look, how they dress, and instead of focusing on the bigger picture, we end up hurting ourselves. And you need to keep in your mind that if you plan on ever having children, your little girl or your little boy is going to be watching the way daddy treats you or the way mommy treats you. And they are going to grow up, and they are going to also think that, it's okay. My self-confidence didn't come in until when I was probably like 21. And I've said that in my previous videos. I have a darker shade. My skin color is a darker shade than most Black women that I have encountered. And for the longest time, I thought that my skin wasn't good enough. And that came from me being raised in not I was not raised by my parents. I was raised by someone completely different. And when I lived with that family, I'll constantly be made fun of my skin color because all their children were different than me. And I was being told that it wasn't good enough. So guess what? Throughout my life, in my teenage years, I'm walking around like, man, my skin is not good enough. But let me tell you, once I discovered that this melanin is popping, I was like, you couldn't tell me nothing, man. I wake up in the morning, I mix my shea butter and rub it on myself. And I just like,
Yes.
I'm like the shiniest thing you could ever see. But that goes back to actually discovering yourself and finding love within yourself. So that if anyone else comes and tells you that, you are not good enough, I'm not even sure why I'm with you, you can also tell them that, listen, I'm all that I can be. I am enough and I am perfect this way. So really love yourself, discover who you are, and believe and trust that God is with you, and the Bible has been our guide. If you have any question, the answer is in there. Might be difficult to search it, but there are different translations that makes it easy for you to understand it. And every time I'm down and I can understand something, I take my Bible. And last night we were reading the book of Colossians, and I was like, I was discovering a whole new identity I never knew I had, through that book. So let the Bible be your companion. And if you need to take a step to pray, pray. And it's okay to cry sometimes, just to,
Yeah.
wipe your tears and, keep it going and
Yeah.
just trust that God loves you and you are not alone.
Yeah.
So that's the little
Yeah.
bit well.
And I think I would quickly insert that you're not ready for marriage until you're okay being alone.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's another big one.
Yeah.
Until you're okay, like really ask yourself when you're single, am I okay? Like if I never meet
anyone
that I want to spend the rest of my life with in marriage, am I going to be okay? Am I going to be not just okay, am I going to survive, but am I going to be at peace? Am I going to be content? Am I going to be whole within myself to follow my dreams and fulfill the destiny that I have on this earth? And if you can check that box honestly, and you'll only know in your spirit, when it's true. You can fool yourself, but really, really dig deep. If you can check that box and you know that you're okay, then that really is when the door was going to start opening for you. It's another one of those ironies. Like it's that opposite. It's like you would think, oh, I've always wanted to be married. It's my biggest dream to be married. I'll be whole. I'll be happy when I'm married. You would think that would equal your way into finding who you're intended to be with, but it doesn't work that way. Once you have come to a place within yourself where you're okay to be alone, genuinely okay, then all of a sudden that door that stood barred against you your entire life opens a crack, and all you have to do is step through from that point on. So be your best self, being single first, and then you'll be ready to be married.
Exactly. And it's something that, oh my goodness, so many people are in bondage because it's like, man, when will it happen for me? When will it happen for me? And it is a beautiful thing to have someone, and someone will say, oh, it's easier said than done. They found each other, but it's because we found each other that we are able to say that you have to be okay within yourself. Because if you are not, if today Ted decides that he's traveling for work for a month, will I be okay to stay in the house? Like, so you can't be so attached to a person that you need to find you need to have your own identity. You need to have your own identity. And like I said earlier, marriage is not a final destination. If you had dreams and visions, please continue pursuing them, pursue them together, even with your spouse, and even if you can do them by yourself, with his encouragement and your encouragement of him. Continue pursuing your individual thing, but together, like build something together. Just, be content within yourself, or else you will get married and you ask yourself, what is this? Like my African accent, like, what is this?
Well, and the Bible says that a man will leave father and mother and cleave unto his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. So that one flesh union isn't some magical thing that is suddenly an original, improved unit. It is the combination of what you were. So whatever you bring together, the two become one. if you weren't ready for this, that union is going to be a disaster.
Mhm.
And frankly, we see divorce rampant, and we see separation and
Yeah.
abuse and pain and all this kind of stuff. And it
Yeah.
really isn't a surprise, because if you are a broken individual, you're going to be a broken marriage.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love there just two things that really stick out to me is going back to Veronica when you were mentioning about like the internalizing this dislike, this discomfort with your skin tone. And I think that is so fascinating because now here we are, 2022. And I know I see it in your comments, and I say it every time. Your complexion is to me like one of your standout features of your beauty. And I think that's so fascinating because often it's that thing about us that we are, going back to what you said, Ted, that we are kind of taught to feel shame or guilt towards. That's actually usually where our gift, where our that thing that's actually special about us. And I find that so fascinating that it seems for so many people that thing that they have the most discomfort with, once they step into their confidence and their power, they'll find that that is actually their gift. That is the thing that makes them, among many things, but that's one of those key things that they are gifted with. So I think just so incredible, because I always am just like, what is she doing? Like, what?
But Amanda, just imagine, okay, if I never broke free from the words that condemned me as a child, and then as an adult, I enter into a relationship, and a guy who was sent by the devil, because the devil sends people. There's so many people in relationship with people that the devil sent. Your life is okay one day, and someone enters your life, and everything is like, whoa, where did this come from? It's like a burden just falls on you. They become like, and I know that marriage is not easy, and the devil always fights marriages. One thing he fights a lot is marriages, because two are better than one. They will have a better return. And so just imagine if I didn't break free from the words that was spoken over me as a child. I'll grow up and enter into a relationship with a demon. I'll say, and then, and he opens his mouth to tell me, well, your skin is not even good. And then I'm not healed. And I'm like, well, maybe it's true, because they used to tell me as a child. Now the devil has sent someone to come and actually like confirm what I was believing. And then self-doubt start happening, like, okay, why was I even born? I'm not even supposed to be here. Let me just end it all. A lot of so many all these things are spiritual, and they begin with us as children. We don't just enter into the relationship that we enter into just like that. A lot of things begin, and that's how it's important how we raise our children, how we speak to them, who we allow around them, who we allow to speak over them, because of what I've experienced and what I've been through. Oh man, when that time comes where God blesses us with a child or children, or even my nieces and my nephews, I make sure I tell them how beautiful and how valuable they are, so that tomorrow nobody will come in. If someone comes and says that, oh, well, you are this, I reject those words instantly. So I'm just so grateful to God for his wisdom and his guidance, and everything in our journey has led us to where we are now. And I know that there is more in the future. And, it's been such a pleasure talking to you. I don't even want it to end, but we have to.
I don't either. And oh goodness, it's so beautiful. And I guess just some closing thoughts. Wouldn't it be so nice if if the devil, the demons, the dark spirits, I wish that they could just present themselves in like a dark cloak, like a Disney
Sometimes they do.
Sometimes, yes.
I know what you mean, though.
Sometimes they're your friends, they're your family, they're your coworkers, and I've always wished that
sometimes they're yourself.
Yes, absolutely. And to speak on yourself, I love, Veronica, that just you said that will this happen to me? Will I find my someone? And I love that. It's just so important to realize that you are someone
Yeah.
and you have someone.
Yeah.
And as long as you are you, you will always have someone.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I love that.
Yeah.
There's a really profound and famous movie that a lot of people know of that actually, I think, really showcases a lot of the Black experience, especially in the past, and that's The Color Purple.
Mhm.
Spielberg's The Color Purple. And we watched that together,
Yeah.
and it really was eye-opening and profound. And the longer that I'm in this marriage, the more I realize what that movie was saying.
Mhm.
Because obviously, as a white man, I am still learning these things. And that's another quick piece of advice I'd give to, a white man in particular looking for a Black woman, is to stay open and perceptive and curious
Mhm.
and constantly fascinated, almost with a childlike fascination about your Black wife, because she's always going to be showing you things that you have never seen before.
Mhm.
She's going to keep continually giving you revelations that you never saw coming.
Mhm.
And if you stay open and receptive to those things, your life is going to be enriched 100-fold.
Yeah.
And so that was just another little nugget of enrichment. When we watched that movie, I subsequently went and read Alice Walker's novel after that. And just all around us, if we open up our eyes and we pay attention and we look beneath the surface of what is, and we put fear away,
Mhm.
then the life that we were meant to live
Yeah.
will come to us.
Yeah, there's so much more to us than
Yeah.
what
It's
our stories have not been told well enough.
Mm.
And it's up to us to really, tell, because sometimes I'll share something with him and it's like the way he pays attention, he's so attentive, and I'm like, okay, he's hearing me. And just by feeling like you are being heard by someone is so powerful.
yeah.
And that is another tool for anyone,
Yeah.
looking to enter into a relationship or even an interracial relationship. Make sure that whether it's a white man, a white woman, make sure that they are hearing you. Because if they don't hear you, they will not understand
Yes.
where you are coming from. And if you don't
Mm-hmm.
understand where I'm coming from, then you don't understand my people. If I tell you that slavery was something that I think about, you can't reject that. You
Right.
can't tell me, oh, well, it's in the past. It happened. Though it happened, it was in the past, but it did happen. You can't, so you need someone that actually hears you.
Hears you with their heart,
With
not
your
with their
heart.
ears.
Mhm.
Yes.
To be able to help you, with your journey and the whole process of it all. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I guess maybe to close out on like a literary moment, since we're talking about Alice Walker, and it reminds me somewhat, this quote has always stood with me from Toni Morrison in Beloved, when she says, "You are your best thing." That is just always something that I keep with me at all times. It's just that, like everything else is an extension of us. And a reflection also of us.
Yeah.
But we are, if we can remember to go back, that we're okay, we're whole, we're complete, we're all that we need, it's all within us, and anything outside of us just reflects what is already in. So yes.
Absolutely. Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's been honestly a pleasure from start to finish. And
absolutely.
hey, maybe we will have to do it again.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have to do it again and focus more exclusively on Black woman, white men relationships and how that nuance can affect things. We've spoken a lot of general terms, but hey, who knows? We'll see. If the fans love it enough, we'll have to give it to them.
I have loved it enough for sure. And it's just so, and I feel it's so not rare, but it's really, you feel when you are in alignment with people.
Yeah.
And you can feel that when you're speaking from your heart, and that you're being heard from your heart and not just the mind.
Yeah.
So I love that. I definitely am a feeling person. I'm always picking up on the energy, reading the room, and I've always felt such a beautiful, just really beautiful spirit from the
Okay, we
two.
got to go now. Don't make me cry, Amanda.
Yeah.
I'm known for doing that and also for crying too. So that's fair. But before we close out, I just want to, for those who may have not found your channel, who have to find your channel and follow you, of course, respectfully and politely follow you, how can they do so? Can you share your socials, which I will also put in the description box as well, but can you just say them as well?
Yes. So our YouTube is Ted Vero TV. You can search us and you'll find us so easily.
Yeah.
And our Instagram is Ted Vero TV as well. So we don't have Facebook, we don't have TikTok, just Instagram and YouTube for now. But as we grow and expand, we'll merge into those platforms.
Yeah.
Yeah. So YouTube, Ted Vero TV, Instagram, Ted Vero TV.
That's right.
Yep.
And Amanda, we're planning on posting this on our channel as well. So for our followers who are interested in what you're doing, please, would you share your
Channel.
socials and channel with them as well? And we'll also post.
Yeah.
I am Amanda Awakens, and I am on YouTube, and I am working my way towards Instagram. I want to slow walk the dog on that one.
Yeah.
But planning,
no hurry, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But planning on doing that before the year is out. But right now, just find me on YouTube, Amanda Awakens.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Amanda.
Thank you both so much. I hope that we, if not video, I hope that just in life, we continue to stay in communication. I have so much admiration for you two as a couple, but also as individuals. And I just want to keep up with your journey and hear all that's going on. So again,
likewise,
thank you so much. And all right, so I think that is it for us.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and close out the live. And thank you both again so much.
Thank you, Amanda. Have a good day.
Yeah.
Have a great night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
You too.